Dear Lord, with great respect and love for you, we come here today to carry out your word and try and keep order within our civil society. We ask you to look over the people of the Middle East at this time, their conflict, guard and protect the people, and help the people of North Carolina that are in this flooded time, and be with each and every one of us in this room, and give us clear and powerful thoughts as we go into this meeting today to serve you and the public in the ways you have deemed necessary. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen. Would y'all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, at this point, I'd like to, a motion to suspend the rules and move into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by David DePetan, second by Tim Harry. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're going into executive session.
Then we need a motion to go into.
Now you need to go, now you gotta go down to, 10
Okay,
and read that out.
all right.
And then into executive session.
I need a motion, let's see.
No, you gotta read it first.
Okay. The convening executive session authorized by Texas Government Code 551.072, deliberation regarding real property, and then Government Code 551.087, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations, the ODC.
So move.
Motion made by David DePetan, second. Second by Melanie Holman. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
We will be right back with you. Yes. Okay, could I get a motion to come out of the executive session, no action taken?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Tim Harry, second by Melanie Holman. And all in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Still in the same.
Yeah, so we're gonna go to, we're gonna review things, and now we're gonna go number 12.
I would like to make a motion declaring ODC's intent to purchase property associated with project logical location pending consideration approval from ODC Board and the City Council on the terms as discussed in executive session, including a fully refundable up to $1 million escrow.
Okay, motion made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Tim Harry. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. All right. Move back into contract reports. Were we there?
So I think we need to get a minutes.
Minutes.
Yeah, number 4.
Oh, yes, sorry. Consider minutes of September 12th, 2024.
I would approve, make a motion to approve the minutes. There's one correction of a typo. I can provide that to Norma. It's immaterial.
Okay. Motion made by David Boutin, second. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Larry Robinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. All right. Number 5, contract reports. Do we have Tracy? Tracy and Renee.
Also, here in just a second, to report on a couple of things. Okay, we, of course, you have your packet, your, activity report in your packet, and, my glasses off, just to let you know that, we are currently working with that first project that is listed on there, that Project Tex West. It's a new project, that has come through a consultant. And we are in the process right now of trying to get a, site visit scheduled for the 8th, Thursday the 8th, from noon to 5. They want to meet with Encore, Atmos, a couple of the taxing entities to discuss possible tax abatements or payment in lieu of taxes. So that's coming together. That is going to be for a, data center. And, the job creation on that is gonna be in excess of 200. So it's a good project. It's just gonna have a lot of moving pieces that still have to come together. There's a couple of the other new, projects that are listed at the very front of that activity report that are all very new. So they're very early in the process. Not a lot of information on those yet, but there'll be more information coming within the next few months. The Project Clean Energy, we are still working with them, trying to find a location for their project. They have kind of narrowed it down to 2 or 3 sites that they're looking at, but it's still working on trying to figure out which one would be the best location for that. And the project's kind of gotten a little bigger. Originally, they only wanted 40 acres, and now I think it's up to 200 acres. So that's kind of thrown a little extra time in on that one. Project Molecule is the project that's out there with CTV, and they're still finalizing their tax abatement agreements with Odessa College and the county. Lone Star Lithium, we had a site visit in May, and as they just have not gotten back with us with any other additional information, any other questions. They kind of do this every time we have a site visit, then it kind of goes cold. And then of course the logical location that you guys just discussed in executive session and made the motion on. And then of course you've got your the BRE visits that are listed in there that Tom and I both were making. Mine were a little light. You didn't have any for August on the last one. Those that are on there are from August. I was out of the office the whole month of September, so we'll get back on track with those again, so. That's all I have. You have any questions?
Any questions?
Okay, and then Renee had a couple of things she wanted to report on that
Thank you, Tracy.
I don't have info on.
Well, Tracy was out because she had a family issue, and we had one of our events during her being out, so I was just gonna report on that. I know that Tom had mentioned the Governor's Small Business Summit that was held in August 22nd, and I think a couple of you may have attended as well. That was a really good attendance. We were selected by the Governor's Office to participate in that, and we are selected about every 5 years or so. Excellent speakers. We had the Texas Workforce Commission, one of the commissioners, Alberto Trevino, was there. We had someone from the Economic Development and Tourism Office of the Governor. We focused on cybersecurity, access to finance and funding, as well as recruiting, retaining, and training employees. There was also a panel moderated of 3 local entrepreneurs, and really just giving advice on how to open up a business and do that type of thing. We also had a really good resource fair for people to talk to different companies and just really get some tidbits. So it was really well represented there. We were there with Odessa College, Midland College, UTPB, Frost Bank, Southwest Bank, and others. SBDC was also involved in that. Then we had a meeting at Odessa College on September 19th. Immigration is big business. We had various speakers talking about different issues, from law enforcement to human trafficking to workforce, the process of immigration. And again, I want to push immigration, not a border issue, but a workforce issue. For those who are here, legally here, going through the red tape and how long it takes. I will give you an example. The Art Museum executive director was here, has now retired and moved on, but she came from Canada and had a visa, and they were trying to get it renewed. And like 6 years, could not get the process. So you have an employee who's wanting to stay here, who is contributing, owns a home, paying taxes, and just the red tape that we're going through. So that's what the discussion partly really dealt with, is just trying to get people in the workforce who want to be here and get them through there legally. So more conversation on that to come.
Renee, was there any conversation, I got to believe that we've got some immigrants who are here illegally but working. Was there any conversation with regard to potential, any avenues with regard to trying to keep them in the workforce by finding a pathway to them legally staying here? And is that even a possibility?
Yes, I think their policy is really in question there, and construction is a good example. We have a lot of homes being built, companies who are trying to work on office buildings. Many of the companies probably that ODC is helping through construction. And many of those people need workers, so they're hiring people and they may not be there legally. So definitely it's a policy issue. So there are efforts taking place from various organizations, just trying to get conversations going. A lot of it's lost in the politics part and may not be decided upon until later, but a lot of it is policy work, and it does pertain to workforce. So
Okay.
I'm not sure that answered your question.
Well, again, I think it's complicated. I understand people's concern about illegal immigration, and I get it, and I certainly have some concerns about that. But if you have someone who is providing value by the fact that they're in the workforce already, and there's no other illegalities associated with anything that they're doing, maybe there's some reason to try to spend some effort to try to help that situation. And again, I don't even know if there's any possibilities to doing that.
Well, and
doesn't
I
seem
will
like
tell
that'd be
you too
proper with
that
taxpayer
Odessa
money.
Midland does not have an office for people who want to go through that process. Right now they're being sent to Lubbock or El Paso. So we're also looking at the possibility of setting something up in the Odessa Midland area because there is so much opportunity here for in oil and gas and construction, agriculture, that type of thing.
Yeah, and we've got forecast for need of
Yes.
lots and lots,
Yes.
to increasing our labor
190,000
force
more employees within the next 14
dramatically,
years.
and
So,
anyway,
we continue those
makes you think
conversations.
anyway.
I will tell you, the chamber, I was just in Columbus, Ohio, a couple of days ago on this very discussion. There are many chambers throughout the country who are seeing this as a workforce issue and trying to come up with some solutions as a group.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I do want to point out, and this is just something that's a concern, we need to be really careful with our taxpayer dollars, that we are not being seen as doing something that would be illegal or encourage something that's illegal
Sure.
with the taxpayer money, and that's something we do need to be really,
And I
really
will tell
cognizant
you,
of.
for example, the chamber piece of it, that is through chamber operations, not economic development, for that very reason.
Thank you.
Yes. And even on top of that, much of that is reimbursed through us, through a national chamber for that reason.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you all.
Great, thank you, Renee.
Thank you.
Okay, current meeting part, I know currently your, our media group, Christy is, I know she's out of town this week. We met last week and, she gave me an update on, I don't have a lot of notes from what we updated on. And it's in the packet as well. It was, on where the money's going on the advertising. And on Black Chamber, I don't see anyone with Black Chamber.
I did ask him, I saw him in the office, and I think he was thinking that, he wasn't required to be here to do a report, but he did want me to mention the Black Chamber banquet on Saturday night at 6 o'clock, at the the Fundale. And if anyone is interested, we have tickets, so we have seats for you. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, I think we're still operating under these contractors are providing quarterly reports, unless they have something that they
Okay.
want to add,
Oh, okay.
That's what they know that's what their obligation is, at least quarterly. If they have something material they want to provide to us, then they can do that.
Okay. And then, UTPB, I don't know if, anybody's here with UTPB?
Don't see James with Motrain either.
It's in the packet as well. And then Motran, I don't see James Beecham.
It's in the packet.
And then we move to letter F, City Financials, Ms. Kaylee Bonda.
I was just waiting for you to call my name. I knew I was the only one of them here.
The quarterly thing doesn't apply to financials, right?
Yeah, I was about to say, I'll see y'all in 3 months.
Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah. So you guys did receive financials in your packet. Somebody else prepared them for me because I was out when the deadline for the agenda was, so I have an update on with some corrections. I think I gave it to you. There you go. And most of the corrections are in the short and long-term reserve commitments. You did not note to update those, so.
Thank you, Kaylee.
You're welcome.
There's still an error in
Thank you.
There. Is there one? Oh, yeah.
Hey, that's awesome.
Okay. So August 2024, we're looking at our investments, the local government pools. Total, minus the net of what needs to be transferred from the ODC tax pool to the city tax pool, is $73,733,961. The actual balance you'll see in a couple pages is around $75 million. Total assets, $93,602,870. There is a sales tax receivable in there. That just means we need to transfer the money to the ODC tax pool. So we will get that done. And we might have already done it by now, but this is backdated to August, so I will double check with our accounting team. Down in the fund balance, the reserve short-term and long-term commitments, I did update this from last month. I told y'all that there were a handful of agreements that were kind of in the air, some needing signatures. So I did add ICA, Welcome In, Liberty was not on here for some reason, Orex, and then UTPB Workforce Analytics. I think that one still needs a city signature to be fully executed, but I went ahead and put it on here for your information. The only one that's not on here that is kind of still very much in the air is the 1.5. I know that one's in conversation still, so I did leave that one off. I did take Nacero off of here. The termination date for that was around July 18th. So that is no longer on here on the commitments. So the total reserved funds is $29,060,587, leaving an unreserved fund balance of $57,542,283. Any questions on the balance sheet? Okay. Next page, statements of revenues and expenditures. You did receive this month of August, sales tax in the amount of $1,276,521. So we're at an actual year-to-date of $13.1 million, which is excellent. What was budgeted was $12 million. So you have surpassed what was budgeted, and there's still one more month of sales tax revenue to account for, the month of September. So total month-to-date revenues, $1,679,186. If we look at the expenditures for this month, there is a large one down in marketing for current media partners. That was 3 invoices altogether that came through in the 1 month. Christy's not here to talk about it, but I did print off the invoices just because I was curious. One of them was a little bit higher than the others. I think there was some kind of project that was done. Let's see, Gatekeeper Service and Lead Forensics, Golden Shovel, 2024 renewal. So I'm assuming you guys know what that's tied to the
She talked
study.
to me about that too.
Did she?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So that one by itself was about $22,000 on the July invoice. So that kind of led to a bigger figure in that month-to-date expenditure than usual. But still, nothing out of the ordinary there. We got it all paid. Like I said, last month, all of the contractors have been made full this year, so there will be no more contractor payments for this current fiscal year you're looking at. Your excess of revenue over expenditures for the month was $1,455,799. Any questions on the statement of revenues and expenditures?
Yeah, I'm confused by the fund balance at the end of year, remaining balance, $134 million. I don't.
So we need to, it's the 93,602 is the one. The remaining, I don't know why that's calculating 134. It's not really a good figure to look at because that is trying to calculate what is left over to be earned and left over to be spent, which is not really an actual figure. We removed that on our city budgets because I had looked at that figure and I said that doesn't make any sense to me, so it just kind of lingered on this one. Okay, the next page is the just a detailed list, or I guess kind of a similar list to on the balance sheet of the short-term and long-term commitments. I don't think that there's anything to note on here. There is under the short-term welcome in trading of $489,000. They did submit that reimbursement a few weeks ago. It has since been cut, the check has, and so we have it ready to give to him, and that'll come out on the September statement, but just an FYI. Next, you will see the sales tax report. You can see in August the same amount I already reported, 1.2 million. This doesn't really provide any additional information, but I just like to include it because it has the year-to-date breakdown in case you guys want to evaluate the trends or anything like that. It's been kind of a roller coaster of a year, as you can tell. March was really bad for us, but I guess people didn't spend their tax returns on mattresses this year like they usually do in January.
Mattresses?
Yeah. Well, that's what people say, that's when people buy their mattresses, because that's when they get their tax returns. I don't know. I've never done that, but that's just what I hear. But on a year-to-date basis, we're pretty even at a negative 0.19% variance from what was expected. So, okay. Next page after that is the investment summary. So you'll see the beginning balance of the pools was at 73.6 million, and it did end at 75.2 million. So it was a good month. CDs, not much change there. The change in the money market, you see, went from 11.9 to 13, and that's because the one municipal investment matured, so it went back into the money market, which you'll see on the next line item, the withdrawal amount under the municipal bond. So beginning balance, 90,941,535. Ending balance, 92,635,770. Okay. Next is the beginning of month versus end of month summary. So you can just see a breakdown of where everything started and ended. We kind of already discussed most of these. Unless y'all have any questions, we can move on to the next page.
First, maybe you've already mentioned it, the First Bank and Trust 17-month CD
Yeah,
matured, I guess,
it did mature.
and it ended up, so did it end up going in the money market fund, or?
The First Bank and Trust? No, so that was a CD. It just renewed into another CD. That was the one where I looked into the rates for you guys, and you guys wanted to do the 364-day.
Okay, so this shows the interest rate is not, that's not?
No, that's not correct. No, so
Yeah, okay.
they wouldn't let me renew the CD because I wasn't on the signature card.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
Uh-huh. And so we did take it to council, and now we just have to get the minutes to the bank to get me on the signature card. I did ask them, though. I said, since we have to go through all these steps, will you guys allow me to go? It auto-renewed, right? But I didn't want it to auto-renew. I said, will you allow me to move it to the 364-day CD? And they said, we can definitely talk about that. You guys are a special customer, they called us, so.
Yeah, because it was a better interest rate.
Yes, yes,
That's
it
why we
was.
went to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So, yep, I'm working on that. And then next, I put this together. You guys asked me to bring some options as far as, now you have 0 investments on the books. You guys asked me to bring you some options and talk about some different things we could invest in, some different amounts we could invest. So this is a list of all of the current agreements on the books. I broke it down by year, as you'll see, of anticipated actual cash flow. We talked about this a little bit when we budgeted. We budget for the entire commitment, which is why it's so big on the budget itself. But this is the actual cash outflow that is anticipated. This does not take into account, of course, any new agreements that you will put on your books this coming year. However, from what I've observed, it usually takes a little while before a reimbursement starts or a grant incentive is given, just because it takes time to negotiate the contract. They have to do the project and all of these things, so keep that in mind.
What's your keyword, usually?
Usually. It typically does. So I pulled the starting liquidity balance from the balance sheet on the first page we looked at. I just added the money market and the local government pools together. So for this analysis and this discussion, we're starting with a liquidity balance of $86,734,860. The total anticipated outflow in this upcoming year, assuming we pay an annual payment to each of the agreements on the books, is $9,724,355. I also had to take into account the operational expenses, which is an actual cash outflow that you'll see. And then I did assume that we would give out full $275,000 for downtown grants, because I know we have some on the books now that are needing to be paid out once their projects are complete. So this also does not assume, I will note, any incoming cash flow. I thought that was a conservative way to look at it. Obviously, you guys are going to receive sales tax revenue over the year, interest income over the year, but I did not include any of the cash inflows in here. Okay, so if we don't include any of the inflows and we take into account all of the actual cash outflows, then at the end of this year, you would have $73,868,677. So what does that mean? It means you have a lot of flexibility in determining what amount you want to put into an investment. We typically don't hold anything longer than 2 years. The investment policy, does not allow for anything over 5 unless there's special circumstances and a vote, by the board. But 2 is usually what we stick to. You'll see on the next page, I included a chart from Bloomberg. And this is showing from current all the way to January of 27 where they anticipate rates are going to go. So you'll see that they really start dipping kind of in spring of 25 next year. And they're going to hit some low lows in 2026. So there's 2 things to determine. One, what is the amount you feel comfortable setting aside for a certain period of time? And 2, what do you want that period of time to be? Given that we usually stick to a max of 2 years. So on the next page, in relation to that, and I know there will be some discussion, we can roll back around. This is just an example of some U.S. agencies that are available. Of course, there's also municipal securities that we have the option of investing in. But if you guys can tell me the 2 things that I told you we need to identify, then I can, off of that, make the decision on whether or not we should do an agency on that timeline and amount, or a municipal security. Agencies are nice because you can buy them in like 500,000 chunks. So it's just very easy to say we want to do 10 million in XYZ. Sometimes the municipal securities are very specific amounts, but we can determine kind of a blanket amount and I can go from there.
So if I go back to this report right here, if you obviously make some assumptions here of
Yes.
the starting liquidity balance. But you'd have to add back in, I guess, our income. I'm trying to determine, Kaylee, if we did this for like 4 years, if it would spit out what's anticipated, based on what we've got on the books, and what's anticipated to be untouched at this point. I guess I'm having a hard time trying to get back to what are we doing now. I mean, the thing from from my perspective, immediately that gets your attention is what we've got in the money market and CDs. Because we know the CD rates are gonna go down, but those are probably gonna go away. I would guess, because there's probably gonna be better options with regard to those, depending on how long you wanna tie it up, right?
Right.
So, I'm trying to figure out what's the best way for us to tackle. What did we look? Huh?
The rate on the money market is pretty good.
Yeah, but it's gonna, I mean,
It'll change.
it's gonna
Yeah.
follow the CD
We'll
rates.
see.
So in the spring, it's probably not. gonna be
Right. The
very-
rate on the money market today is 5.04 and the rate on the text pool is 5.16.
Yeah.
But that, by the time we get down into this area, that's gonna be
drop,
different.
drop pretty
Precipitously.
Yeah,
on the same level, isn't it?
yeah, exactly. So honestly, even the rates on the agencies that Oppenheimer sent over, I mean, they're less than what you can get now, obviously, on the text pool or the money market, but they are gonna come down probably to the, I don't know, 3.5s or so by the time we get down to this low dip.
So there are, I mean, you don't need a decision right now on CDs because when they mature, that's, you know, or just before that, then we need to make a commitment at that point. In anticipation of the money market falling pretty quickly, then I mean, there's, what was that, $13 million?
Yes, 13 million.
You know, you could preempt that, I guess, and say you want to invest half of it or something like that. But I guess I really don't know how to.
Honestly, you could invest the whole 13 and not feel any pains.
Yeah.
You could probably do more than that and not feel any
And
pains.
so what do we have? What's our? So we could draw out a text pool to cover any grant payments that we needed to. Is that how, that would be the way to do that?
Mhm. Yeah. So another thing to consider is that you guys have on your budget, let's see, 30 million for infrastructure and 20 for business incentives. So none of that would hit in 2024, but likely it would start hitting in 2026 forward. So 2 years is a good amount of time to lock a big amount of cash up, because assuming you approve the full 50 million in incentives and grants this year, you won't need it really until 26 or 27. So that's what I'm saying. You could probably do more than 13 and feel comfortable.
Didn't we have a lot set aside, or didn't we agree sometime back about Motran, about setting aside the several million to?
Well, we have $15 million committed, 13, let's see. We've got about $3.5 million that's uncommitted. You know, some of that's already been spent, but we've got about $3.5 million out of that 15 million that we need to decide, and I think that's something that ought to be on the next agenda, a recommendation of, you know, where to commit those funds to advance those tech stop projects.
Mm-hmm.
And then we talked about, James recommended it would be good over the next, I forget what time period he was talking about, 5 years or something, somewhere in $10 to $20 million range, to do the same thing, buy down those tech stop projects so that they happen faster. So we need some kind of a recommendation.
I don't see on here the funds that we committed to setting aside for City of Odessa infrastructure projects that qualify. And that 18 million,
I think that's included in the 30 that y'all budgeted
Yeah.
for infrastructure on the budget. So that's what's different about this. This is not budgeted, committed, it's actual what is.
So what you're saying,
motion.
Kaylee, we could be directing possibly about 13 million would be what we could.
You could do that comfortably. You have 13 million in your money market at Frost right now. and you won't need any of that for the next 2 years. Because you'll likely receive another 13 in sales tax revenue this coming year, so it would be a wash. If we had a better idea of how much of the 30 million in infrastructure y'all were gonna approve, that would be helpful.
But couldn't we reserve it somewhere, kind of like we've got the text dot projects, how they show on the financials here on the bottom of the balance sheet?
Mm-hmm.
You know, rather than trying to make this sausage here right now, because I think we're going to spend a lot of time, maybe we would be better off with a subcommittee to work with Kaylee, kind of work through some cash flow options and some investment options, come up with some numbers, determine, you know, what do we need, you know, and you know, because I think if you think about, you know, James recommending $10 to $20 million over the next 5 or 10 years. Well, that's a big. There's a lot of room in that. Maybe we could come up with maybe you could appoint a subcommittee for us to sit down with Kaylee and kind of just have a little work session, come back to the board with a recommendation regarding investment and cash flow management, if you will, over the next 2 years or something like that. Would that, because I think we're kind of spinning our wheels here a little bit. It feels like that to me. I think it's hard for me to get a grip on it.
So maybe by next month, if we could have a meeting.
Kaylee, where can I find so you got CDs, pools, money markets, where can I find the gains for the year to date? For all those efforts?
If you look at,
Or loss, hopefully not a loss, but it could be.
Yeah.
the investment summary page, this one, it'll tell you the changes in fair market value. Now, this is just kind of on a monthly basis. It's not year to date.
Well, and then on our profit and loss, we've got an interest income line and a gain or loss on investments line as well. Those are actual.
So the 3.9 million and the 111,000? Okay. So but just isolating the CDs and the money markets, it's only 111,000? The interest is from,
The interest would be tied to the money market, the CDs, and the text pool. The gain and loss on the investments would be anytime our municipal securities came to maturity, if we had any gains.
so you're looking at 4 million, and that's pretty substantial, so, yeah, that's, a subcommittee's a good idea, I think.
I agree.
And I think Gene ought to serve on
That-
that.
I think Gene should serve on that too.
committee because it's a great way for him to get his feet
wet.
Dive into the pool, into the end of the pool.
I think you'd be good for the subcommittee too.
Yeah, I'd be willing to do that.
Since, you know,
Okay.
thank you, Mike.
I'm not sure I'm value added, but I'd do it anyway.
Katie, are you good with that?
Yes,
A
that's
moment
perfect.
To do that?
I think there are a lot of moving pieces when it comes to making these decisions, and this is a challenging platform to do that because we have other things on the agenda, and yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay, can I go ahead and appoint Gene and David Patino?
Can we appoint a subcommittee without an agenda item?
Without an agenda, we probably
Would
need
you
to.
put it on the agenda for the next
Yes, we
meeting?
could do that.
So it's pushing us a month out.
Create a
Yeah,
subcommittee for
Even if we have a special meeting.
If we have a special meeting, that'd be a good thing to put on that
Put it
special
on the
meeting
special
agenda.
meeting too.
We might have one.
Yeah, because we probably want to beat it before the next Fed meeting, just in case.
Be a good idea.
So.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Katie.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any more questions? You're good? You have more? Covered it all?
Thank you, Kayla.
That's a good idea. Okay, number 6, Odessa ODC Committee and Officer Reports. Partnership, we have not met. Tax incentive, we got
Tax
that?
incentive, I think we're probably gonna discuss that on item 7.
Okay. Advertising, we did meet last week, and we had a good visit about everything. I didn't write things down. I should write things down about that, about our meeting. DOI grants, Design Review Board,
There hadn't been anything.
okay.
No.
Compliance,
There hadn't been a compliance meeting either.
okay. All right, number 7, discuss and consider amending the ODC bylaws.
So, about a week ago in city council, I believe a motion was made and it was passed to basically dissolve the tax incentive committee. So it's been disbanded because I think it only, correct me if I'm wrong, Gina, but it meets maybe once every 2 or 3 years. And so what we thought would be more efficient, more feasible would be to put it into the compliance committee. So that's basically what we have here on page 6 of 11. Should be red line. Basically, the compliance committee shall also be responsible for the tax incentive guidelines and tax incentive application for the city council of the city of Odessa.
And that would be an every other year obligation, right? Is that right or not?
Every other year for the guidelines, every year for compliance of any.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Pretty much, yeah. So basic compliance.
Is that the
before
only
that.
change to the bylaws?
Yeah, that, and then that's a 4.3.
Oh, yeah.
4.3.
Thanks.
Dealing with the downtown grants.
Okay,
The
just-
A and C.
All right, to stick with the tax incentive committee, the committee being disbanded and whatnot, there's nothing on the books right now for compliance, for any compliance work, is that correct?
There is currently one tax abatement with the city right now that gets reviewed every year. It hasn't been reviewed yet for this year.
Oh,
We
okay.
haven't
Okay.
received the information.
Okay,
And that was a 10-year agreement, so there might be 2 or 3 years left in. That's for Glazers Beer and Beverage. So it would just be reviewing their compliance.
okay, so you're adding to the compliance committee that obligation annually for the next 2 or 3 years, and then every other year, review of those guidelines in the event that you do have any of those tax abatements in the enterprise zone. So,
Yes, and so you'll also be reviewing if any applicants go to the city for a tax abatement. You would just be reviewing just the, kind of the same types of things they review for the grants. And then just reporting to the city council whether or not, what their recommendation is. And if
So-
that becomes an agreement, then it would be annual compliance.
so I guess my point that I'm trying to make here is, I don't think this is an undue burden to add to our compliance committee. I think that, you know, that they're flexible when they can meet, so they should be able to handle that. So I'm sorry I interrupted, but then going back to the second part of this was the facade and infrastructure grants are gonna be handled
To
by economic development, yeah.
And the only, so I made the change to this, it was probably a couple months coming. It was when the guidelines for the facade grants came out of the city code, they became by resolution. There wasn't a change made at the time, so I'm just kind of piggybacking on the tax incentive to make this change as well.
Sure.
And the tax incentive committee, the council will vote on the 22nd to dissolve it, and they will also vote on the amended bylaws if that are approved today. So if this happens today, then the council will officially do everything on the 22nd.
I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation, changes to our bylaws.
A motion made and a second by Melanie Holman. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I had a
Passing
question.
unanimous.
On the end of paragraph C, it just left with submit dangling out there. After the
Submit
red line.
applications. Says, work with the Economic Development Division of the Odessa Chamber of Commerce to submit applications.
Where does it say applications?
Next
If
page.
you look on the next page,
It says applicants under D.
look on the next page, look up, They blacked lined out complete, and then applications is.
I see, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in there, but it's in there, but it's the only word left.
Okay.
Okay, we've got a
Okay.
unanimous decision.
Yeah, we all vote. So I guess this tax incentive B is going not to be there from now on.
And instead, your financial
Investment subcommittee.
subcommittee will be
That's only supposed to be a temporary.
It's like a
committee.
temporary subcommittee.
Yeah.
Well, you'll have to report on a temporary basis.
there.
Also, any member of the public may address the ODC board regarding any of its agenda items before or during consideration of the item. I left that off. We're good on number 7. Number 8, consider approval of annual compliance monitoring report of incentive of cage equipment. Back to Tracy.
This one is a little late coming to you. It should have been done a couple of months ago, so we apologize for that. But the cage equipment did go through the compliance process, and the findings were that they were in compliance with what their performance agreement. They have 17 full-time employees, which they were required to have 14, and the payroll is $1,093,000, and they were only required to $1,090,000, which is about $3,000 more than what they were required to have, and they have also met their agreement with the capital investment. Their total grant payment was in the amount of $318,000. This should be their third payment, and it'll be a fifth of what the 318, which is $63,600.
Okay. Any discussion or questions on that?
There was a statement in there.
Yeah, I read it. I
Did
read
you-
the statement
Said
too.
something about that they were not able to reconcile something.
Right, I read that too. Are we aware of that one?
I'm sorry.
Because they didn't audit, they said they weren't quite able to reconcile.
Oh, well, I was just looking for the performed and results. I did not see that. I'm sorry.
But it was just, everything fit in there, but they weren't able to reconcile compliance. I remember what you said. Dave.
Based upon the
Oh, with the-
procedures performed, we're unable to reconcile 17 out of 47 employees between the payroll reports, 941 and TWC reports provided. The grantee was unable to provide an explanation for the discrepancies reported.
I remember that too.
Well,
And then it's under that, it says the grantee did meet the total FTE requirements of 14 employees, as there were 17 employee FTEs calculated. The results of our procedures confirmed that the wage threshold of $1,090,520 were met as required by the EDA. Details of hours, wages, and FTEs are presented below.
So on the one hand, they couldn't reconcile something, but I guess it turned out to be immaterial because there was other information that provide evidence that they met the
They met the
criteria.
qualifications, but it looks like 17 out of 47 employees were unable to reconcile. So they did add 17 FTEs. I assume disregarding the 17 they could not reconcile. That's an issue though for them. I mean, there's some kind of
Yeah,
issue with their reporting, but it looks like they confirmed it with the payroll reports that they met the EDA.
right.
Right.
I think it would be important we need to go back to the auditor to understand, I mean, I think we're making an assumption that information was basically cast off and everything else determined, what they could reconcile determined that they qualified. So I would want to know that's, because I hate to make an assumption and it be inaccurate.
Okay.
I don't like the way this was written.
Yeah.
It doesn't,
And this was compliance that
Compliance doesn't look at it
If it's-
unless they don't
Okay.
make their requirement.
Right.
you know,
That's
the other
correct.
thing, I guess, because this is not holding up a payment or anything, right?
Yes, it would be.
It is holding up a
Yeah,
payment?
yeah.
Well,
I mean, it has to be approved before you
Okay.
can make a payment.
I think we ought to get that clarified. I mean, I think it's gonna turn out to be a moot point, because I think what they're trying to say is, we couldn't reconcile this, but we were able to confirm that they they at least met the minimum, they exceeded the minimum requirements through other data that we had.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just,
I mean, to me, that sounds like a big issue, to have 17 employees that don't conform with the 941.
it's a third.
well, the one statement in there, the grantee was unable to provide an explanation for the discrepancies reported. It's like, sound like we need to,
Well, and if they're not material discrepancies, that's one thing. If any of them are material discrepancies, then that's something else. But
I mean, it could be an indicator of an underlying issue affecting the business. It gives me heartburn. 17 employees is.
Do they only have one office? You know,
don't know, do they have one officer? I'm not sure.
Yes,
I mean, like Standard Sales had those New Mexico employees that
Right.
time, so we couldn't get their 941s to come. They were different, but I can't remember how we worked around that.
And that could also be that they have employees in another that are out of state that are coming in there too. That's
They'd
entirely
be able to
possible.
provide that explanation.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's true.
Yeah,
When I read that, I was waiting to see how this discussion was gonna go.
okay, so we just need clarification from the auditor on the 17 out of
Yeah.
47 employees that they weren't able to.
We'd like to know what
reconcile.
didn't-
you understand, Tracy, we're basically saying, we couldn't get this to reconcile. But
Right,
now, but on the other hand, we're telling you that they
they're-
exceeded the minimum requirements.
but,
That-
but how do you know that if you
Yeah,
can't
so-
reconcile, right?
Yeah.
And it could turn out that these 17 employees that they couldn't reconcile, that they're immaterial differences. And maybe that's the reason they did it, but we need clarification, I think,
Okay.
in order to approve it.
And we could, if they can get this to us, if we happen
is
to have
our
a special meeting.
941 one of the points they have to prove? Or-
That's what, so for the audits, that's how we get proof that this number of employees was paid this amount of wages. We don't just take their internal reporting, we take the copies of their 941 reports and reconcile it to their internal reporting.
Is there, if their dollar amount is there, is it still critical to have the same number of employees? If the payroll is there, the
I
composite?
don't want to speculate on what the problems could be,
Yeah.
but in my mind, I think we want to know.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
Even if it's, even if it's a discussion they have with compliance,
Okay.
but it gives me some heartburn.
When I read this one, I expected some discussion on this.
I mean, does that mean that they say they have 17 employees that aren't on the payroll reports to the IRS? Because that is an issue.
So,
Okay.
do I get a motion to table?
So move.
Okay.
Motion made by
Second.
Melanie, second by
No
Tim.
problem.
Okay.
We'll get those
All
answered.
in favor?
Aye.
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 The motion carries. We might be able
Thank
to
you.
address this in a special meeting if it's,
Put it on the next agenda,
Given-
whatever if we can get the information in
get the
timely
information.
fashion, whatever the next meeting is that we have. Yeah, I'm with you.
I mean,
Put it on as quick as
if we can get it on,
Let's
if we can
get
get the
them there by
information we
next
need, we probably can address it. All
It's
right.
just very vague.
Number 9.
Number 9, citizens' comments on non-agenda items. Anybody want to address? Number 13. Upcoming dates for future agenda board meetings, ODC board meeting. We're scheduled November 14th, 2 p.m., not 2:30.
The 2:30 trick was pretty nice though.
Is everybody good for that?
The 14th is fine with me.
Hold on.
14th's good for me.
I'm gonna say it's good for me, I don't know. I can't find, I
Does
can't
anybody have a problem with the 14th?
get off of this.
We'll plan on meeting on the 14th of November
That's looking like I'm okay.
and possibly
Let me look at
sooner.
my other calendar.
I'm looking at both.
Oh, you still looking?
Getting the right month. I'm good. I'm good to go.
I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Melanie Holman, second by Tim Harry. All in favor?
Aye.
We're there.